Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman has simultaneously been with us forever, but also not that long at all, and is always showing up out of order. So we figured it'd be nice to do a little chronological story recap for Diana, Princess of Themyscira, daughter of Hippolyta, and all of those titles from the unofficially named DC Extended Universe. Before we specifically get into Diana's story, we have to get into the history of the Amazons and life itself. According to the story, Hippolyta tells Diana when she was young, when time was new, Zeus made humans, Ares corrupted them out of jealousy, and Zeus created Amazons to restore peace among them. Yet, after a period of peace and enslavement from man, Hippolyta led a revolt that freed her people with the help and defense from the gods. Ares, still craving the fall of man, killed many of the gods in the process, but Zeus fought Ares and hid the Amazons on an island along with the god killer in preparation of Ares' eventual return. Diana herself was crafted out of clay by Zeus and Hippolyta, making her a demigod and the fabled god killer, but she doesn't know that just yet. In Justice League, Diana recounts the first time mankind, along with Amazons, Atlanteans, Green Lantern Corps members, and gods had faced and defeated Steppenwolf. His 3 mother boxes were separated and hidden by the Amazons, Atlanteans, and men, knowing that Steppenwolf would one day return. We meet young Diana, the only child on Themyscira, a mischievous and curious little girl who yearns to be a warrior like her aunt, the great general Antiope, who trains her in secret, much to the dismay of her mother. We then fast forward to 1918, where we see an adult Diana who has now also grown into her powers. On this day, she saves US pilot Captain Steve Trevor from a sinking plane that was shot down by German soldiers in pursuit. Steve was a spy who was caught stealing the notebook of Dr. Isabel Maru, which contained the formula for an extremely lethal poison crafted and to be weaponized under the orders of General Erich Ludendorff. The German soldiers then cross the dome that hides Themyscira from the rest of the world and of course start shooting. The Amazons fight them and Antiope sacrifices herself to save Diana. After learning about the Great War from Steve by way of the lasso of Hestia, Diana becomes resolute in joining him, believing this to be the work of Ares. She steals the lasso, a shield, armor, and the god-killer sword and sets off with Steve to man's world and the war. Before she leaves, Hippolyta tells her,
"Be careful in the world of men, Diana. They do not deserve you."
Which is fair. Well, actually, before they get to the front, they have to stop in London.
It's hideous.
There, she learns what it's like to be a modern woman.
Why are they holding hands? What do these women wear into battle?
She also meets Steve's secretary Etta Candy, Sir Patrick Morgan with the Supreme War Council, but who is actually Ares in disguise, and Steve's allies Samir, Charlie, and Chief. Once making it to the front in Belgium, Diana charges across no man's land, giving the Allied forces a chance to advance and take back the village of Veld from the Germans. A local man takes a photo of the ragtag group, and that photo would anchor Diana's presence in this cinematic universe. Later that night, she and Steve do a 2-person dance, if you know what I mean. The next day, Diana and her merry band of gentlemen make their way to a gala that Ludendorff and Dr. Maru will be at, only to leave Veld defenseless against Dr. Maru's lethal weapon. An enraged Diana follows Ludendorff to a local military base and confronts him, thinking he is the real Ares, and kills him. But once seeing the war continue, she comes face to face with the real Ares and finds out that she is the god killer, not the sword. Which makes sense since she is a demigod daughter of Zeus and Hippolyta, the only one really capable of killing another god. As she fights the real Ares, Steve sacrifices himself, and out of grief, she kills Ares. From that day, she decides to remain in the outside world and fight for those who cannot. Of course, in the sequel, we'll learn exactly what Diana Prince will be getting up to in the decade of greed, crime, and excess. Now based in Washington, D.C., she gets tangled up with businessman Maxwell Lord, timid Barbara Minerva, and parachute pants.
Does everybody parachute now?
In addition to the basic questions we have of how is Steve alive and how does a human become a cheetah, the biggest question we hope answered in this movie is, will Diana finally take flight in her signature invisible jet? After all, how can she and Steve view all of those fireworks so closely? Let's see if radar can see that. Fast forward a few more decades, according to Batman vs. Superman, Diana is in France from 2012, or 2014 according to this image, to at least 2015, looking very mischievous and fully aware of cameras around her. When we first meet Diana in her first cinematic appearance in 2016, she has already been living among humans for almost a century. She's an antiquities dealer who crosses paths with Bruce Wayne at Lex Luthor's home while looking for that precious World War I photo. Bruce emails her a digital copy of that photo, letting her know that he knows her secret. Up until this point, Diana has been keeping a low profile. Of course, we know that she's active in 1984, but she did what she could to keep her actions secret. And side note, he also sends her information about other metahumans. Hello, you would think Bruce would be more careful about cybersecurity? After seeing Doomsday on the news as she's about to leave on a plane, she decides to suit up and join Batman and Superman to fight Doomsday,
I've killed things from other worlds before.
where Superman sacrifices himself to save all of humanity. At Clark's funeral, Bruce asks her if she'd like to start up some team or group or, I don't know, a league. After the events of Metropolis, it seems like Diana doesn't take Bruce up on his offer. She's working at the Louvre and moonlights as Wonder Woman. What else could she possibly want? Answer: the original World War I daguerreotype, which, now courtesy of Bruce Wayne, could sweeten her towards his offer to start a team. In Justice League, very recently after Superman was killed, Diana is now based in London, still fighting crime and preserving historical artifacts. Yet after Steppenwolf's return, she visits Bruce and they decide to unite a team of metahumans to fight and prevent Steppenwolf from uniting all three mother boxes. The rest of the movie is ultimately Diana arguing with Bruce and rolling her eyes at all of the boys she must babysit.
Children. I work with children.
And during the big fight with Steppenwolf, she delivers a destructive strike to Steppenwolf's axe, which leaves him fearful and vulnerable to the parademons, and thus defeating him. After the dust settled, Diana and Bruce scout out more permanent locations for their growing League of Heroes, settling on the old Wayne Manor. We do see her one last time in the movie, inspiring hope on the steps of the British Museum after stopping war crime. And that's effectively where and when we last see Diana Prince, now a public superhero and always the protector of precious historical artifacts. Patty Jenkins continues to follow this thread of placing Diana against mankind's greatest tests. First war, now greed, but always trying to fight it with love, which we are sure to see more of in Wonder Woman 1984. For more on DC and Wonder Woman herself, and for all things superheroes, be sure to keep it locked right here on IGN.